let's talk about the state of the card industry. You know, not just baseball, basketball, football, hockey, you name it. Heck, Pokemon, for gosh sake. So what's happened? It's on a decline, right? It's on a decline. But why? Is it because of COVID? Everybody's going back outside, having fun, partying, drinking? Maybe. Is it because all the stimulus money ran out? Maybe. Is it because the collectors that got into it have ran away? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of different things going on here. More like a course correction. You know how like when the Dow, you know, gets like, say it's going to hit like 40,000 this year, right? There's going to be a course correction. That shit's going to go back down like to 37 the next day because things don't just jump that fast, that high. So if you were around in baseball collecting like 4 months ago, Dominguez first edition baseball card literally jumped from $75 a card to $225. It was like overnight. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I need to be selling this card graded right now. And instead, I chose to send my card to a grading company, which hasn't come back yet, and therefore it's all come back down to earth. Now, will the Dominguez card drop underneath $75 each? I don't think so. I think it's just back down to right where it was always supposed to be at. So I think what I'm trying to say is that there was a wave. And specifically, at the beginning of COVID, there was a huge wave, okay? And the wave has come back down, and we're riding a new wave, you know? And we're riding ripples. So we're not going to get to a point where it's just going to crash, okay? One, let's look at all the variables here, okay? Yes, people are going back outside because of COVID. Two, the stimulus money is gone, okay? Three, we don't have big players right now. I mean, let's look at baseball, for example. Last year, you had Luis Robert, okay? Last year was so big that people forgot about Yordan Alvarez. People forgot about Bo Bichette, who both, by the way, are freaking awesome. You know, those guys are completely undervalued right now. So Luis Robert was the big guy last year that everybody chased. And there was a lot of other guys in there too, like Gavin Lux, Aquino, that haven't really panned out yet, but still young. Well, Lux is. So last year there was a lot to chase in the game. Everybody had a big player that they wanted to go out and get. And on a team that's really good as well. You know, the Tampa Bay Rays with Wander Franco is small, and I'm not even going to get into that story. But let's see who's out right now. Okay, Mountcastle, Baltimore Orioles. Nobody really chases Baltimore Orioles. He's probably doing the best this year. Alec Baum is hitting like a 200, so he's not lighting anybody's socks on fire. Dalbec, nothing. So this year you have like maybe Casey Mize will become something great, but pitchers aren't really sought after until 5 years later. So we don't have a lot of great baseball players right now. Finally, Cabron Hayes is in there, but he's 24, so automatically half the collectors are like, oh, he's 24, I'm not really chasing after him, despite the fact that he's awesome. Okay? So then, let's look at football. Now, last year, they literally had huge quarterbacks being taken off the board. It was supposed to be one of the best quarterback draft classes since 2011 is what they were comparing it to, okay? And by the way, in 2011, if you collected football cards back then, you got effed. And what I mean, Andrew Luck, RG3 were the top two quarterbacks taken off the board, and what happened to those guys? So yeah, that was last year's draft class over again. And we had those quarterbacks, and they started pretty much from the beginning of the season, and Tua's pretty much the only one we can count out the door right now. And people aren't even going to count him out the door yet, but except for me, all right? So Jalen Hurts, in my eyes, might be the guy that, you know, comes out on top of all of them. At least that's what I'm hoping for because I'm an Eagles fan. So this year with the football gods, you know, what cards would you chase in football? It's basically one guy. It was the first draft pick. And heck, the name is escaping me right now. But, you know, Topps even had his autographed rookie card available. And his long, beautiful blonde hair is freaking everywhere. But you know what? This draft class was him. After him, it was just other guys. You know, I know there was like 10 quarterbacks taken in that first round, But it reminds me of that draft with Blaine Gabbert, where every freaking team reached for quarterbacks that all did not pan out. So I don't think football is going to have huge swings to the fences right now either. Same thing with basketball. There was not a huge basketball draft class this year. Every 5 years or so, they talk about the next LeBron James, okay? Who was the last LeBron James that came out? Ben Simmons. Look how that's worked out for the Sixers. Embiid was huge, and he dropped to number 3. And that year, Andrew Wiggins was, like, you have these guys. Trae Young was taken number 5. He was not huge in the beginning. So NBA drafts, unless they have that prodigy, that star coming out, like LeBron James, the next Kobe Bryant, the next Allen Iverson, those guys, those basketball card collectors are not going to go hog wild. They're not. So we're seeing a course correction. There is good years and there are bad years. For example, 1985 Topps. Find me the rookie card you want from that year. Find me the rookie card you want from 1991. 1989 had Ken Griffey Jr. 1990 had Chipper Jones. 1990 had Frank Thomas and Sammy Sosa, but 1991 had Chipper Jones. But he had so many Chipper Jones, and that's all that was. That just wasn't. It wasn't a great year for baseball. Anyway, tangents aside, we have ourselves a situation here where it's not a big baseball year. Okay, we have a lot of guys that came into the league this year, but they were 24 years old, or they're playing for teams that are not the Yankees. Okay, in 2022. We're probably going to see a change. We're probably going to have another big year again. You can't have a big year every year. Which, by the way, is good news for us as collectors, because we're going to go out there, we're going to still buy the cards, and then 3 years from now, all of a sudden, one of these guys is going to be going for an MVP title, and he's going to be selling like crazy. I won't ever forget when my Bellinger, my Bellinger, I had like 3 of his autographed rookie cards. And I had them up on eBay so long that I started knocking down the prices. I said, boom, boom, boom. And then I forgot about it. And then all of a sudden, he sits like home run, home run, home run. People are comparing him to Babe Ruth. And that card just shot insane. The same thing's happening right now with Ohtani. I bought Ohtani Topps Chrome PSA 10 for $30 back in February. That's like a $300 investment if I was smart enough to keep it. My point is that we're seeing the market go back to normal right now, and it's gonna go back up again. When's it gonna go back up again? Well, when the draft starts becoming hyped here really soon, and then when we start talking about next year and who's coming out next year, I'd say February and March for baseball, cards are going up. Dominguez going back up. So if you're like wondering if you should sell right now because everybody's starting to dump their cards and you're like, okay, the market's going low, I need to sell before it bottoms out, don't worry about it. You've hit the low. There's no going lower than right now. The only way up is up at this point. I can guarantee that. That's a promise. When it comes to football, I think football is going to have a slow year personally, just because there's only one guy to chase. And we'll see about basketball next year because that draft still has to happen. Not a professional into those sports personally. I abandoned those sports, and the reason why I abandoned those sports, and I'll tell you right now, maybe I've not said it before, a football player's average career is 3 years. 3 years. Legends are not typically made in football. And you can shout them out to me. What legends are in football? Tom Brady. Peyton Manning. Who else? There's a few others. Notice that they're all going to be quarterbacks. How often are they a Brian Dawkins? Very freaking rare, okay? Very rare. I can go out and get some rookie cards for my favorite teams for like $15 in football because those players play for 5 years and then they're gone. If it was and I know that everybody loves Panini and they have this huge love for him, but 5 years, guys. Baseball is a 20-year sport. They come in when they're 20, they leave when they're 40. Hell, sometimes they leave when they're 45. Even the average players play for 15 years sometimes in baseball. At least they used to. I know it's changing a little bit now. But you've had average players play for like 10, 15 years in baseball. So memories get made. Legends, stories, all that stuff grows in baseball. In basketball, name a player from the 1995 Sixers team. You can't. I want to say Herschel, no, Hershey or something like that. Maybe been earlier. I can't remember those guys. They didn't have anybody. You know, I can name 10 years where the Sixers didn't have anybody. And I'm talking about every team. You remember guys like Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. You're not remembering, hell, you might not remember Trae Young in 10 years from now. Let's be real. He's not that damn good. So, you know, C.J. McCollum, for example. Who's collecting C.J. McCollum right now? I guarantee you he's not going for crazy buck. If he is, that's a surprise to me. But if he is going for crazy buck, in 10 years from now, he won't be. Period, end of story. People are collecting the legends in basketball, and legends in basketball are made rarely. Legends in football are made rarely. Legends in baseball are made every year. Every year. So collecting baseball cards is always the safest bet, always the most profitable. The only problem is that sometimes you will have years not as good as others. So far, in my opinion, 2021 is the year of Cabron Hayes, and we'll see about the pitchers. And then 2022 is probably going to be the year of Wander Franco, and hopefully another one or two guys. Just look at Guerrero right now. Vladimir Guerrero is freaking huge. You know, freaking huge right now. And last year, all of you were counting him out. I'm telling you, when guys come up, when they're 20 years old in this league, they come up for a reason, and they're going to last you 20 years, and they're going to get to the point where they hit the 3,000 hit mark, the 500 home run mark, and then they will become unforgettable. Period. End of statement. The only one that's ever been forgettable seems to be Rafael Palmeiro, because A, he did steroids, and B, he was overshadowed by the Sammy Sosa, you know, Mark McGwire, and Barry Bonds of the world, who were just freaking crushing it. So, there are, you know, anyway, the whole moral of the story is that, yes, baseball's on a downtrend right now. It's bottoming out. The card I talked about earlier, the first edition, first Bowman, Dominguez rookie card, is not going to go any lower than it is. You're not going to see it go to 50. You're not going to see it go to 40. It's going to stay around $75 each. And actually, it's just going to go back up come the next wave. Period. End of statement. So, yes, COVID is over. Yes, people are going back out again. But the collectors, all the people that came in this past year to collect, I think are still here. And personally, I think the guys that went out and collected basketball and the guys that went out and collected football, I think they're going to find out how bad of an idea it is, and you're going to start seeing them trickle in buying baseball too. Because it's the smartest choice. Period. All right. That was long. Hopefully you enjoyed it.